How y'all doing? Hope everybody good out there. I wanted to drop in and give y'all a quick little video. Today's video, I want to talk about the gig driving apps. We're talking about Doordash, Instacart, Uber Eats, Spark, etc. Are they still good options to make some money with in 2026? And whether we're talking about a side hustle or full time, like I still see people doing it full time. Me personally, I do it as a side hustle. I used to do it full time, but I'll tell y'all my story with that, and also like do's and don'ts for people that are interested in getting into it or people that are already doing it. Like, a couple things that I see. And hopping straight into it, yeah, I think it's still a good way to make money. The sign up process pretty easy. You should have a good driving record, license, depending what state you're in. Is the minimum age requirement. So I understand South Carolina. I think in South Carolina you got to be at least 18 years old, and you want to have like a good working phone with internet access, because you catching orders. You need internet access. You need, depending what location you're in, you want to talk about the vehicle. So if you're in a big city like New York, Chicago, I done seen it where people up there, they have it where some people do it on bikes. If you're in more of like a suburban like city, like where I stay in South Carolina, you typically gonna need a car. And make sure that the vehicle makes sense. So a lot of times I see it where I see people with luxury cars or people that drive vehicles that eat a lot of gas. Doesn't make sense in the sense of you're making more money, but you might not be making as high as a profit because you're not calculating any expenses. So we know with luxury vehicles, doing these apps, when you're talking about Doordash, Instacart, Uber Eats, whatever one you want to do, you're going to be racking up more miles on your car. So, when you drive a luxury vehicle, more miles mean you're going to have to be having it in the shop more. And we know, like, with luxury vehicles, whether it be like a Benz or BMW or any luxury vehicle, they're usually more expensive to get fixed. Same with the vehicles when we're talking about trucks and stuff. When we're talking about gas eaters, you're driving more miles, you're going to have to be getting more gas. So don't just look at the money you're making on these apps. Look at the expenses as well, as far as like gas and maintenance. Seeing, is it making sense in the sense, are you still making a profit after all these expenses? Just looking at my notes, fits and all that. I think with these types of apps, perfect for like little Toyota Corollas, Camrys. We're talking about Honda Accords, Nissans, things like that. And the good thing about these apps is you're sort of kind of your own boss in the sense, like you can make your own schedule, you do it whenever you like. With Doordash, if it's busy, you have to schedule ahead. So if I know I want a Doordash, I'm gonna schedule like a week in advance, because sometimes it's based off of the supply of drivers and the demand for orders. So they're not gonna let just anybody do it if it's not really a big demand for orders, because the money not being spread around. But as far as the other ones, when we're talking about like Uber Eats, Instacart, Ship, I think all those you could just hop on whenever you want. The area you do it in is also really important. So with the big cities, more people, you're gonna have more orders. I stay in more like a not rural area, I guess you could say suburban like area, like upstate South Carolina. So still a lot of restaurants, decent amount of people. I've never done it in a big city, but I'd be seeing, sometimes, like say for work, whenever I'd be seeing people in big cities. Obviously you're gonna have more opportunity, but I've never done it in like rural like areas, when we're talking about like small towns. So I don't quite know how that work, being honest. I don't know if it's like, obviously it's less restaurants, less people, but it might be where they let only a certain amount of dashers do it. That way it's still demand, but even with the dashers are doing it, do enough people be ordering on there? So you definitely want to be in the area where it's like you got a decent amount of restaurants to make, make orders. And let me see, at these places like restaurants. And me personally, all the ones I've used is Doordash, Instacart, Uber Eats. I do have a Spark account as well, but I don't really use that one that much. And off the top of my head, I think them are the ones I use. So let me see, preferably 100 miles. And all of them been pretty good. All of them been pretty cool. As far as like the Uber Eats, I've only done Uber Eats. I've never actually done Uber where you're driving people, but we'll talk about that as well. So as far as orders, when we're talking about the food apps first, so like Doordash, Uber Eats, I think Grubhub's still around, apps like that. You're delivering food, so you're really just paying attention to the amount the amount of the order, like how much you get paid for the order and the miles you're driving. So me personally, don't take a order. The money should double the miles. So as an example, a $10 order, me personally, I don't want to do no more than 5 miles. If it's a really slow day, at most I might take 7 miles. Reason being, it's sort of kind of, you got to be strategic with it. So you're driving more miles than your car is, so you want to drive as less miles as possible and get the most out of the miles you're driving. So if you're taking $10 orders, 10 miles, that's sort of kind of, you're racking up more miles unnecessarily. So let's say if I take a $10 order, 10 miles, you also got to factor in, you got to drive back to the area typically. So that could add up to 20 miles, $10. So first off, with the orders, don't take an order unless the money at least doubles the miles or is real close to it. So for example, $10 order, I don't want to do no more than 5 miles. Let's say an $8 order, I don't want to do no more than 4 miles. Minimum with the driving, with the food ones, I'm not taking no more than the minimum I take is a $5 order. Typically less than $5, they're not even tipping, so it's like, what's the point? And then you also, like, the more you do it, you have to figure out your area, like which restaurants are faster than others, which restaurants are slower. If this restaurant is slow, it's gonna hold me up. I might want to skip them, especially if it's consistently. So just figuring out which restaurants are convenient and move at a good pace. Now, adding into the grocery delivery apps, when we talk about Instacart, Shipped, Spark, I don't think you have to go shop for the orders in Spark. But with Instacart, because I do that one personally, you do have to shop. You typically have to shop for the groceries. So when we just talked about with the food apps, you're looking at the miles and the amount of money. With Instacart and the grocery apps, I'm looking at the miles, the amount of money, and the amount of items in that order. Reason being, because if I shop for these items, it's gonna take me time. So I want to be efficient. We're gonna go back to typically Instacart pays a little bit more on orders because you're grocery shopping. So let's say a $20 order, 7 miles. I also have to factor in the amount of items I'm shopping for. So I'm probably not doing no more than 20 items. Like, I don't really got like an exact ratio that I use personally, but $20, 7 miles, I probably want to take a 30 item order. $20 order, probably won't do no more than 20 items. Especially if I don't, like, me personally, I don't even do like Aldi orders because I don't know the grocery stores there. Like, in Aldi, it seems like everything just random. So a lot of times the few times I went in there, I'd be confused a little bit. And I ain't even gonna lie, bro, I didn't know you needed a quarter to go into Aldi. So my first time going to Aldi, bro, I confused as hell. Like, I had to steal somebody's buggy. Like, I didn't know what was going on. But that same thing with the Doordash and Ubers, like just figuring out which places you work for you. Like, when I used to do Instacart heavy, I used to do Publix and Dunkin' a lot. I stay in South Carolina, upstate South Carolina, so I used to kill Dunkin', and I used to know that store. So I would really take a lot of orders from that store because I know where everything is in that store mostly. But with the grocery, I like doing it more compared to the food because you get paid a little bit more. But factor in how many items and the familiarity you have with that store. I notice a lot of people that are like foreign customers and whatnot. Sometimes it'd be hard for me to find their stuff because I'm not as familiar, so it take me a little bit longer. You obviously you can see the items before you accept the order. But with Instacart, you have to also move a little bit faster. So Doordash, they send you an individual order. You have like 30 seconds to accept it if you want to take it or not. Same with Uber Eats. It might not be 30 seconds, but you can accept it at your own pace. Instacart is first come, first serve, so you have to really check it really, really fast. If it's a good order, somebody's going to take that, so you better hurry up and try to go ahead and snatch it. I'm not familiar with, I did Spark for a little while, but I didn't do it as much. Now, let me see. You got to track in the groceries. Cool. When you're driving these people's groceries and food, do not drive crazy. from personal experience, the food could tip over, the groceries could tip over. Like I remember one time in particular, I was Instacarting and I had slammed my brakes at yellow light, knocked all the lady cupcakes down. She still tipped me, but like, damn, you just feel bad. Like, damn, I done messed up this lady food and stuff. But yeah, man, drive at a normal speed. Don't be driving, swerving and all that, knocking people drinks over. Like that, you're going to get bad ratings. Make sure you communicate with the customer, keep them informed, introduce yourself. You don't necessarily got to, but it's like good. Now when I do it, they give you an option to automatically send. I don't even use it. Usually when I DoorDash now, I don't really do nothing. I really don't greet myself and nothing. I just deliver it. But when I was like really doing it like full time and stuff, I would definitely like introduce myself, especially on the grocery apps. If it's like they're out of something, I would communicate that with them, seeing what they want as a replacement, because you know how to be with your groceries. You picky, man. You don't want it where you just the deliverer just assumed you didn't want that. You know what I'm saying? Don't be smoking in your car. Keep your car clean. Acceptance rate is irrelevant. My acceptance rate on DoorDash is 2%. Most of the orders are shit orders, so why would I accept them? Like, don't be thinking your acceptance rate need to be high. It doesn't. It doesn't factor in nothing. If you just be taking shitty orders, you're gonna do bad. So don't think this acceptance rate is important. You don't necessarily need a hot bag. People might say you do. Me personally, I've used probably a hot bag like a couple months, and even when I don't use a hot bag, I still have very high ratings. So you don't necessarily need one. I've never had an issue. I'm usually going like 5 minutes, so at most 20 minutes to deliver the order. People food not gonna get cold in that amount of time. Completion rate. You do want to pay attention to the completion rate. What a completion rate is you accept the order and then you cancel the order. So I used to do that a lot. I ain't gonna lie, because I'm gonna talk about like I'm using all the apps at the same time. So I might accept the DoorDash order and then an even better Instacart order pop up. So I cancel the DoorDash order. You want to keep your completion rate as high as is. On Instacart, they'll deactivate your account if your completion rate gets too high. DoorDash, I don't think they'll deactivate it, but you want to keep it at least higher than 95. As y'all can see, I don't do this as much as I used to, so I be forgetting a lot of stuff. But just telling y'all my story. I started with Uber Eats in 2021. So I was working at where was I working? I was working at I was working at UPS, and I was there for about 9 months, and I was sort of kind of fed up with UPS. And it was sort of kind of perfect timing, because I had started doing Uber Eats on the side, and I was like, damn, let me see if I can probably do it full time. So I was doing it full time for a couple months, and it was good. I used to do it in like the Spartanburg area, the Greer area, and it used to be pretty busy. Like I said, I'm near areas where there's a lot of restaurants, so I can keep getting orders. So then it started to slow up a little bit, and it was perfect timing once again, because in May of 2021, when it started to slow up for me on Uber Eats, I got accepted by DoorDash. So now I'm full time in DoorDash and Uber Eats, and it was doing good for me. So then in August 2021, I moved to Duncan, South Carolina, and now I got accepted by Instacart. So at this time, I'm doing Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Instacart full time. And this is in the middle of the pandemic, so you also got to think it's a demand for these apps, because people are not going out as much and people still want to eat. So it was high demand. It was a lot of orders. And if you are thinking about getting started, or if you already do it, I would sign up for as many apps as you possibly can, because that way you can do them all at the same time, and there's a possibility for more orders. So I'm doing 3 apps at this time. At the time I was on the wait list for Shipt, Grubhub. Some of these I just never got. To this day, I don't think I've ever got accepted by Shipt. So sign up for as many as you can. That way, the ones you get accepted for, you can do. That way, you have a higher chance of getting order. I found my sweet spot to be 3. I remember, I think last year or the year before last, I got accepted by Spark as well. So it was 4 apps, but Spark just kind of got annoying to me. Like, just keep having to filter through orders. So I did 3. Now I do 2. I don't even do Uber Eats as much no more. Really, I don't do none on as much, but when I am doing it, it's mostly DoorDash and Instacart. So I was doing those full time for 2021 and 2023, and it was a lot of money to be made on there because, like I said, it was the pandemic at this time, and when I was staying in Duncan, I used to live right by the Publix in Duncan. It was super duper busy with orders around these 2 years, especially 2021, 2022, and I used to kill. Like, it used to be crazy. And let me see. Then 2023 hit, so I say like middle 2023, really probably beginning of 2023 as well. It just started to slow up for me, and then it sort of kind of made sense to where, like, maybe I should go back to a job and do this as a side hustle. Like, I was still able to pay my bills full time, but I wasn't able to save as much as I wanted. So then I ended up going back to a job. This when I got my job at AT&T. Really cool job. So going back to a job was cool because now I could get, health insurance. I'm not beating my car up as much. Like, I done run up a lot of miles on my car as is, but especially with these apps, like, you just constantly drive, you're going to run up a lot of miles in your car. That's why I recommend making sure the car makes sense. Like, doing it in cars that you can run a lot and they're not as expensive to get fixed and they're good on gas. Let me see. And yeah, ever since then, I've been doing it as a side hustle, and it's still been good to me. Like, I've been able to make extra money on the side, and it's still been busy in our area. Sometimes I do it in Greer, and I do it where I stay currently, and it's still busy here and there. Sometimes it's slow, but that's always how it's gonna be. But for the most part, it's still money to be made. You just got to be strategic in doing it. You want to drive as less miles as you possibly can to make the most money as possible. Can be spooky in some areas if you're a woman. Make sure you keep, whether you have knife, gun, whatever you carry that on you, pepper spray. Be careful with catching double orders, especially on Instacart, in particular the summer, because they'll have it where you might deliver 2 orders to 2 different customers. So it's okay if you're going to the same grocery store, but it might be where you have one order going to Publix and one order from Costco. So you go deliver the order, you go do the order from Publix, and then you have to go do the order from Costco. But the stuff from Publix is sitting in your hot car in the middle of the summer. I don't think your customer would be happy about that. So be careful with catching double orders on Instacart or any of the grocery apps. We talked about driving luxury vehicles. Be careful using other people's account as well. I see this often. A couple of my friends asked me about using my account, and I just politely decline. Reason being, when other people use your account or use somebody else's account, so let's say I let somebody use my account. My socials still are tied to that, and I still had to pay taxes on all that money they made. So it might be where I might let my cousin use my account. They doing it full time. They done made $30,000 this year. That's $30,000 extra income under my social. So the IRS will look at it like that I did that. So you gotta be careful and think about stuff like that, because I'ma always emphasize Uncle Sam gonna want his money. And even then, like, they don't Doordash in the apps, they don't want you doing that. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But just keep in mind. Also keep in mind your taxes and your deductions. So with doing these apps and things, you're considered 1099. In a job, you know how it be. You get your check, they done took the taxes out for you as a W-2 employee. When you're doing these things like these as, sort of kind of self-employed, you have to be responsible and pay your own taxes. So with these types of apps, you're driving a lot of miles in your car, you can use that as an expense. So not trying to sound too confusing. Obviously, I'm not a tax professional, so please consult with your tax professional if you have one to make before when you're doing all these. But every mile, so you can, when it comes to your car, so deductions is, give me 1 second, y'all. My bad about that, y'all. But deductions are basically business expenses that you use to do business. You can write off deductions for your tax bill and make your tax bill lower. So you remember we talked about in the beginning when you talking about getting your car fixed and gas and all that. That would be considered deductions because you're using that for business purposes. In this sense, your business purpose being you're doing delivery apps. So you can do it 2 ways when it comes to your car. You can add up all the expenses it takes for your car over the year, where we're talking about gas, what else? Maintenance, insurance, stuff like that. You can add all that up by yourself, and you can do it that way. Or you could do it, well, I want to say easier, but typically it is easier. Every mile you could track every mile you drive, and you can deduct. So how they have it in 2026, every mile you drive when you're doing these apps, you get 72.5 cents that you could deduct off your tax bill. So basically, you have it where you can track your miles. So you can do it where you can manually do it, like every time you get in the car, you look at your odometer, you track it that way, or you can use apps and make your life easier. So every mile you drive, you get 72.5 cents that you could deduct. And that way is usually easier than having to keep up with all the expenses. But expenses outside of your car that you use, you can deduct those as well. We're talking about food bags and phone stuff that you're doing, that you use for these delivery apps. So apps I like to use as far as tracking my miles, you got Stride, you got Everlance, you got TripLog. I use all three of those apps personally. And to make it easier, I use a different mile tracker app for every delivery app I use. You don't gotta do that, but it makes it a lot easier when we're talking about which miles you drove for which delivery app. And like I said, not trying to sound too confusing, but keep that in mind, because especially if you're doing this full time, where you'd have made, let's say, 30, 40,000 this year, you didn't think about taxes. Eventually, Uncle Sam is gonna catch up to you, and it's been 2-3 years you've been killing, and then you realize you got like a $20,000 tax bill because you weren't aware. So keep that in mind. Actionable items, as far as just make sure you track your miles, and reach out to your tax professional and see like which ways and strategies y'all can use, because I done seen it where a person's doing this stuff like full time, but they're not considering their taxes. Like, you still have to pay tax for anything you do, and it's even more important because you're the boss in this situation. Like, it ain't like your job where you get your employer takes out tax for you. You got to be responsible in doing it yourself. But I think that's everything I got. I'll probably keep doing little videos like this. If there's anything I forgot, can y'all please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If y'all do like any of the videos and y'all have any questions, please reach out to me. Y'all stay blessed.